Welcome to episode number 60 of the First Responder Wellness Podcast. I'm so glad you joined us today. My name is Conrad Weaver. Wow, 60. That's quite a milestone. I'm so excited to deliver this podcast today and to continue this journey that we're on in the podcast world. Thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of this community of people who care about first responders. Whether you're a first responder or you're just someone who cares about first responders, thank you for being here and for listening, for watching, and for being part of this community. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to the show, I really encourage you to do that. We really want to grow the show and impact more people. So one way we do that is by you subscribing. And if you can leave a review, that would be amazing. That would mean a lot to me. And it would really help us boost the ratings on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on other platforms. It would really help us to boost the ratings and get us out to more and more people. So leave a review and leave a 5-star review if you think it's worth it. I would really appreciate it. Hey, what can a horse do for you? I know it's kind of a silly question, but have you ever asked that question? Have you ever asked what a horse can do for you? Well, we can ride it. We can, we can race it around the track, but what can it do for your mental health? And you've probably heard of equine assisted therapy, but if you're like most people, myself included, you're kind of skeptical. I know I was until I experienced it myself. Well, today my guest is Elizabeth Tate. She's a licensed therapist in Maryland, and she's the founder and director of Common Ground, Inc., which is a certified equine-assisted learning facility at the Paradise Stables right here in Central Maryland. It's a state-of-the-art equine boarding stable that she built in 2006. And today on the show, we talk about the impact of equine therapy on the first responder. We touch on the science behind this and the life-changing impact of equine therapy. So here's my conversation with Elizabeth Tate. Well, Elizabeth, welcome to the First Responder Wellness Podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the program today, a fellow Marylander. Welcome.
Thank you, Conrad. I'm very excited to be here with you, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about you. I see you're in a barn-looking place. So tell us where you are and what you do.
I'm actually in our Common Ground schoolhouse classroom, where we actually heal a lot of hearts, no question. This is where the therapeutic part, the mental health part of what we do happens in a more group setting.
Mm-hmm. And so you work with veterans and first responders. So tell me how you got into this line of work. I know you come from a different background, I believe.
I do.
How did you end up working with this population?
Well, my dad served in World War II and in Korea, and I grew up with not being able to go to fireworks and things like that because I was told he was shell-shocked during the war. I didn't really understand what that was, but I did learn compassion for him and compassion for whatever it was that I didn't understand. I was very young. And then he joined, in the early 80s, he joined what was called the 446 Bomb Group, which was basically his squadron from World War II. And that's where I saw that the men actually heal. I was allowed to go, and I sat in and I listened, and like they saw POWs that they hadn't seen since the war, and really reuniting. And so that was the beginning. And then fast forward many years, I'm a pastoral counselor, clinical psychologist, and then I owned a defense contracting business with my dad and some other folks, where we were supporting our military special forces in white papers and things, and making offensive and defensive things to help pre and post 9/11. And so fast forward to the sale of that business, and it afforded me to build this amazing barn. And I knew I wanted to marry my pastoral counseling knowledge, my mental health knowledge. I was a therapist for a long time at Hartley House in Frederick. And I knew I wanted to figure out how to use the horses. And I hate to say use because they're not a tool, but to utilize their hearts to help others. And we've accomplished that.
So tell me about that. I've been exposed to a little bit of equine assisted therapy, and I've seen the benefits of it, not only for myself, but for the people that are in my documentary, and just being around that a couple of times, I've seen what it can do. So tell us a little bit about that. What is equine therapy? And I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So let's talk about horses and why horses really help facilitate the healing process where talk therapies fall short. So as a person who was a therapist in talk therapy for many years, once the horse was introduced to me as a conduit to sort of neutralize the playing field in conversation, I thought, oh, okay, there's something there. And what makes that happen is they have an energy field as we have an energy field, and their hearts are 7 to 8 times bigger than ours. And so as we come into their energy field, we regulate our hearts to them. And they tend to have a much lower and slower heartbeat, right, than we do. And kind of like a child to a parent. And actually it is like a child to a parent. They're probably the only other animal that we get close enough to and that share the same chakra system that we can actually do that with. And so there's a natural calming. And then we create situations where people can actually be calm and build a relationship and learn a new way of feeling, especially for first responders and military folks who, jump out of airplanes or their life is threatened every day and they live in this fight, or freeze place. And so we give them the opportunity to get to a place that what we call is green, a place where they have peace and tranquility, because many people forget what that even feels like. So that's the first step. And then the building blocks happen from there. We meet people where they are, whether they're coming to see us individually or they're coming to see us in a group setting, an already established therapeutic group, or even team building for that matter. Then we curtail what we do from that point on.
You said a couple of words that make me think, sounds really woo-woo.
Yeah, it does.
So tell me about that. What is woo-woo about it? What isn't?
Well, if you've ever had an EKG, what does an EKG measure?
It measures your heart stuff.
Your electricity.
Okay, yeah.
Right? That's what it's measuring. It's the level of electricity that goes through your heart that keeps you alive. And it's a natural phenomenon. And that's exactly what happens with a horse. Ours goes and meets theirs, and they combine. And we naturally lower ours to theirs because they're bigger. So, I mean, I guess that does sound woo-woo, but it's the truth when you think of it from a medical perspective.
But so more than woo-woo, it's actually science, right?
It is science.
Yeah. And I've seen it work in my own life when I've interacted with actually one of your horses, actually a mule, stubborn thing, trying to get it to do what I wanted to do. And I was able to do that in some roundabout way. And it was a pretty an amazing experience. So
let me ask you this. So what did you have to do to convince Ryan to meet up with you?
Well, I had to be real with him. had to approach him just in an authentic way and then just tell him what I wanted.
Which so many people don't. Right?
And why is that?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is ego, right? So humans have ego, whereas horses don't. Horses live from moment to moment, and they just constantly flush. They don't, not that they don't remember, but they don't hold on like humans hold on. And I think, ask me your question one more time. I want to make sure I get it right.
I guess my question is, why does this work? How do we, connect with these beasts, these animals that help us to change?
So horses and mules have mirror neurons, and mirror neurons give us the opportunity to see ourselves in them. And I'll give you for example. So on Friday, I was working one-on-one with someone who has been so traumatized, she has not really been able to function in a healthy breathing sort of way, right? Because breath is everything. So we were working with one of our horses, and we were really focusing on breath and keeping time with the horse's breath. And there were gunshots going on that just sort of came out of nowhere. We were in the outdoor arena, and the horse wasn't terribly startled, but the human was. And the horse has this ability for fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's how they're made. That's what they do. That's how they've survived, and to run. But this horse didn't run. He shifted his weight, and he looked at her, in my opinion, to make sure she was okay. We worked on breathing for her. And once we got her to a place where she was back in a calm place, he walked on. And he walked on to the point at which he then turned sideways to us, faced the gunshots, and cocked his hind leg with his eyes closed. That modeled behavior. And we didn't really identify it quite initially what it was happening. She took it as rejection. That was what was going on in her mind. But as I was watching the horse, I said to her, what is that horse trying to tell us? And then all of a sudden she was like, I don't know. So she got in his position. She cocked her leg. I said, belly breathe, stick your belly out. And we sort of figured out together that you can't really be in a fight, flight, or freeze state when you're physically in that position. And I think that was the message. And it was huge for her, and gave her some tools and some building blocks that she could work on to get herself out of this fight, flight, or freeze phase or state when it happens. And it was a really important tool for her toolbox. So it's hard for me to put all of this in exact words, but I can give you thousands of examples where horses show us a better way.
They are amazing, beautiful creatures that, I've had the privilege of being around once in a while, and I'm actually, so full disclosure, I'm working on developing this documentary idea for a ranch in Wyoming. And I'm hoping to be able to do this because I'll be able to ride horses out there in the wilderness in Wyoming. So I'm looking forward to that. But doing this kind of work, how have you seen? How is it different and the same? How is it better? How is it different than talk therapy or some of the other modalities that you as a therapist have used in the past?
So one-on-one talk therapy can be fairly intense. And what do you talk about? The hardest thing for people to do is to make that initial phone call, right? So
sure.
And then you're going to meet with somebody one-on-one, and you're going to have this eye contact, and you're going to not think of all the things that you really want to say, or over talk, or want them to like you, or like there's so much stuff that gets in the way. When you add the horse to it, it's interesting because the horse, we're all really focused on the horse. And when you're touching the horse and you're interacting with the horse, doing activities that we developed, so many things come out. It's kind of hard to explain the how, but the why is it's just levels the playing field. It's just so much easier to be having your hands on this huge creature in an energetic breathing kind of way where it's not intimidating. You can say whatever. And we talk about it ahead of time where horses don't have ego. Horses don't judge. Horses don't lie. Like they just don't. And you can tell them anything and they won't tell anybody else. So it really lends an opportunity that's so much less threatening emotionally than talk therapy.
And so it's just another tool in your toolbox to help bring people to wholeness and wellness.
Absolutely. I see it every day.
And so how is that for you, just as a therapist, as a practitioner? How is that for you to see that kind of progress in people when it happens?
It is amazing. It is indescribably amazing. Like, I'll try. When you see someone who comes in that has this brokenness, but yet you have this horse or mule who can be uplifting and take burden. So also energetically, woo-woo, as you want to call it, they release so much from us. So we can give them, we'll call it dark energy or negative energy, and they will absorb it and then they'll release it either through a shake or a yawn or rolling or some other way. They literally take it from us. So as a therapist, I don't want to go back to talk therapy. I don't have to, but I'm just saying, like, I think it has its place 100% in mental health. But I know that the folks that we're helping have tried many, many things and they've come here and gotten way farther, way quicker in healing.
Do you think part of it is for first responders, especially, they all face this stigma of, I got to go see the shrink, or I got to, I don't want to get help from, I have to go because I'm messed up. But going out to a farm like yours, coming into a horse barn and stables, it's just a different experience. It has, it doesn't look, you don't have a couch in there where they can lay down and expound on their troubles.
No.
Do you think that has something to do with that kind of brings down their guard a little bit?
Absolutely. We had a men's group here last night and everyone comes in here not knowing what to expect, but they're expecting something different. Right. And so I think because they expect something different, they definitely leave differently. And there is a code that I haven't really cracked in terms of having groups of first responders open to what we do. And maybe it's because they don't know that we're here. I don't know, but I really welcome the opportunity to work more with our police and our fire folks who are in it every day. They go from trauma to trauma. Our 911 operators that do nothing but hear trauma every day. I want to serve the people who are underserved.
Well, hopefully after this podcast comes out, there will be a few more people who know about you and know about your work, because I think what you're doing there is amazing. And just the little bit of time that I spent there, and I'm hoping to do it again sometime, was really transformative for me. And I know it can be for, and looking back at, when we premiered our film in Texas a couple of years ago, I took all of my primary characters in the film out to this ranch where we did some equine assisted therapy, and it was transformative for them. On the day that the film was released, they knew they were going to be in the spotlight, and they knew that, here the story is going to be out for the world to see. And it's a very stressful time. and taking them out to this place and having them spend a couple hours, with these horses was really transformative. Um, so, so how you work with groups and individuals, how does that different? How is it different working with a group than with an individual?
Most of the groups that we work with they're already in some form of a therapeutic arrangement. So horses open boxes, right? They open, and the last thing I ever want to do is open a wound and say, okay, bye-bye, see you later. I don't ever want to do that. That's not what we're intending to do. So I love working with groups who are already in some form of trauma work, who are ready to work. So that's the ideal. But however, if, let's say, a group of police officers wanted to come, and let's say there's 10 of them, and for some of them it's transformative, and for some of them it's way deeper than that, and it's a good sign that they probably need to do a little more work. And we'll try to find them someone. And hopefully I've already worked with someone in their organization who already has folks on the ready. And I, of course, have folks that I work with too. So I just think it's really important that we figure out a plan, because yes, horses open up a lot. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're telling me their life story. It's not what I'm asking them to do, tell me their life story. But it opens places in their heart that maybe they just didn't even know needed open.
So would you say that this type of therapy isn't perhaps just the only thing that someone needs to engage in, but it can perhaps open that door and willingness to engage in further, whether it's talk therapy or some other modalities, EMDR, other things like that, that would continue to bring healing to them?
Absolutely. Jamie Eaton and I we've been test bedding a 6-week trauma program, which it is unbelievably healing for folks. And she is a therapist in town, in Frederick. And we're not a one size fits all. We're a one size fits some. And for some people, it's going to be the ticket, and it'll be enough for 1 or 2 or 5 visits. And for others that they just might need more of something. It's hard to say what. It depends on where they're comfortable. I think that's the thing I hear the most, is how comfortable it feels here. Like you said, a farm and a more natural setting. But we're also very welcoming, and the horses are very welcoming.
These horses are not like special horses that are trained to do therapy, right? They're just horses. As
opposed to trick horses that are in movies? Is that what you're...
Yeah, or just, they are not like trained, we're going to train you to do therapy with these people. They're just horses that you guys have that, or do you do any training with them for this type of work?
Every horse that we use in our program is handpicked. There are certain characteristics about them. It's not breed specific, but there's characteristic specifics that have to take place in order for them to be in a place to receive maybe the dark energy or the other things that could happen in a therapy session. They are not animals that are quick to flight. They're also not push button robots. We love them, we ride them, we keep them in good shape so that they're ready to work. And so they're not desensitized. They're right there. We do use a lot of draft horses. They tend to have a fantastic disposition, and their hearts are bigger, so their energy's bigger. And especially for men, it causes this huge calming effect, standing next to 1 or 2 2,000-pound animals and working with them. So I'm not bashing thoroughbreds. I don't use thoroughbreds or high-strung Arabian horses or others that tend to be more hot, as we call it in the horse world. So there are some breeds that can't bring it down for what we do. Mm-hmm. So yes, to answer your question, every horse is handpicked. And we do work with them just to make sure we put them through a lot of the obstacles that we do amongst ourselves, amongst our volunteer staff, to make sure that the reaction can be anticipated and expected. Mm-hmm. Every person who comes through here gets a bio on their horse. And that's because, A, we know the horses really well and we can kind of anticipate what the outcome will be. Of course, every person is different, but it's amazing how matched they are with the people who choose them.
Very cool. So this kind of therapy, is it something that someone can learn to do, or is there like a curriculum that you have to go by, or is it something that you learn at a university or whatever? How does that work? How do you come about this kind of work?
So there's a lot of people doing equine therapy in different ways. There's a lot of PATH is a very popular certification. GALA is a very popular certification. I happen to not be either one, and that's on purpose. I'm certified by the Equine Assisted Learning Academy, actually in Canada, because I feel like that what they were doing and do resonates more with myself and my style as a facilitator of equine assisted learning. And so what I did was I had this program that I started in 2017 when I was working with Platoon 22. And I took that program and I took what I learned in Canada from the equine assisted learning folks, and I've married them together. Mm-hmm. So I take a little bit from here and a little bit from there and a lot from my gut, and I meet people where they are. So it's difficult to say that there's a specific curriculum because it's not a one size fits all. Mm-hmm. So it's like a good mechanic. I have tools in my toolbox and pull them out when we need them.
Mm-hmm. So how do agencies, organizations, individuals, you come to you, and is there a cost to this?
We have applied for some grants for military and first responders that we're hoping to receive here in the next year. We've never charged a military member or a first responder ever for what we do. And many programs have funding available to them where they would pay a fee. Many don't. And we don't turn anybody away. We want whoever wants to come. And we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any, obviously, without talking about names or revealing people, do you have any success stories of people who've gone through your program who are now in a better place?
Yes. I was just sitting, as you were asking me that question, I was thinking, do I have any that haven't? And I don't mean to sound arrogant at all, but everyone's different when they leave here. But I tell you, the first group that we had here in 2018, the first Veterans Weekend, actually, when it was over, it was a weekend program. We teach veterans and first responders how to drive a carriage with a team of horses. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of fun stuff too. Mm-hmm. And this gentleman said to me when he was getting ready to leave for the weekend, after being with us for 3 days, he said, "Well, I have to tell you, I'm really glad this worked because I was going to kill myself on Monday."
Wow. And
I was like, oh, that's when I knew. That's when I knew what we were doing and our methods were, we had to do better. Like, we have to keep doing better. We have to keep helping. And he didn't, and he's doing great. Mm-hmm. And we're still in contact. It changed his life.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, the work is amazing. And the facility is beautiful. It's in a beautiful part of Maryland, and it's just a gorgeous place. And a beautiful barn. It's like some of the barns I saw in Lexington. It's just that quality of facility. So congratulations on all that. What do you hope to accomplish? Or where do you hope this leads to in the future?
I just want to help people. I tell you, Conrad, I don't know. We're on a trajectory that has exceeded all of my expectations thus far. People are finding us, and I would love to be able to help other people learn what we do so that it's not just us who does it. Because we are different from most other programs that I'm aware of. And it would be awesome to be able to offer this to anybody that ever wanted it.
Wow. And I think people should take advantage of it, or not take advantage. That's kind of the wrong word, but I think people should go there and spend time with some of your horses, because it's really an amazing experience. So tell me how people can how people can find you, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So my phone number is all over our website. It's 301-639-5052. That's my personal cell number. We're not a big organization, so I'm pretty reachable. My email is Common Ground PS for Paradise Stables at yahoo.com, and our website is www.commongroundps.org. And we are a 501(c)(3), and we are looking for funding so that we can continue what we're doing and continue to provide it at virtually no charge for those who really need it.
That's awesome. Well, I heard about you a couple months ago, and I was like, wow, right here in Maryland, less than an hour from my house. I didn't even know. So I was really excited to meet you and to spend some time with you there at your place. And congratulations on your work. And we're gonna get you busy. We're gonna get people to come see you and to get help, because there are lots of first responders out there that I know who would really benefit from spending some time with you and your horses there.
Well, thank you, Conrad. I appreciate it. And I just want to say that we'll meet people where they are. So if it's individual or group, or let's just have a conversation and see where we end up.
Elizabeth, thank you for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for being willing to help first responders, absolutely free of charge. And if you want to learn more about the Equine Center here in Maryland, I have a link in the show notes. Please check out that link. And I also have included Elizabeth's phone number and website address, as well as her email, so you can reach out to her and her people there at the Equine Center. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate that. And please remember, you are not alone. And if you need someone to turn to and don't have anyone you can talk to, you can dial 988 for help. Until next time, be well, take care of yourself and those around you, and go out and do something great in the world. Oh, and don't forget, next week, very special Thanksgiving special right here on the First Responder Wellness Podcast. You don't want to miss it, so tune in. See ya.